Welcome to AM Muscle Maintenance with In Shape Fitness. I am Coach Kim, and today's podcast is called How to Do 40 Push-Ups. Now, that's a pretty simple concept. I love push-ups. I actually do them every single day, but push-ups are not that easy for people, and they're not real popular in mainstream, or I guess rather trendy fitness modalities. Now, they've been around for a long time, and I'm going to talk actually about the history of push-ups as an exercise in a minute, but I don't want to go any further without mentioning the popularity that we're seeing, a little bit of a bump in popularity for push-ups here just in the last few days because of a couple of articles written about a study. The study was at Harvard Chan School of Public Health, and it looked at the ability for men, mostly this affects men, but women for sure can benefit from them as well, the number of push-ups that a person can do and the person's propensity to develop heart disease, to maintain cardiovascular health. So obviously we don't want to even work on cardiovascular damage. What we want to do is prevent or maintain rather cardiovascular health. And what I found really interesting, given the fact that especially in my line of work as a running coach, we tend to assess people's cardiovascular strength with cardiovascular sort of labeled activity. So things like running, taking stairs, there's a step test that trainers often do with clients. Sometimes you can swim or bicycle, and those are good ways to ascertain your ability to sustain your body over a period of time in an elevated heart activity. However, what this study says is that being able to do 40 push-ups, those people that can experience the greatest risk reduction. And this is an incredible statistic. They cite a 96% reduced risk of heart trouble in comparison to those who can only do 10 push-ups or fewer. So that is a really significant number, 40 push-ups, right? And I don't normally do 40 push-ups, so over the last several days, I have been experimenting on myself. Not that, I'm a sample of one. Clearly, that's not at all data-oriented, but just for my own just experiences in terms of helping people understand the gravity of changing. Most people I work with, I might have them do 10 push-ups as part of a warm-up, maybe 20 push-ups if we're, working on trunk stability, but performing 40 push-ups is a different story. And so I have been doing 40 push-ups in the morning, and I have to say that is a big difference between doing 10. And what I want to talk to you about today is how you get from being able to do 10 push-ups maybe to 40, and what those steps might look like in the time period if you're interested in sort of taking advantage of this knowledge. I mean, it's obviously not omniscient. There are statistical errors and potential for statistical errors in any study that takes place, but it is fascinating that we've been looking to someone's ability to run for a minute or step for 2 minutes, or how long it takes you to get to your maximum heart rate, and how quickly you can get from your exercising aerobic heart rate back down to your resting heart rate, all those different kinds of factors. And here we have a reputable, like one of the most reputable organizations, educational and medical organizations in the world, tell us, hey, if you can do 40 push-ups, your risk for heart trouble can go down 96%. That's amazing. Amazing difference. So let's talk for a second about push-ups as in terms of its history, because I always go back to the stories of how exercises are created and find it incredibly fascinating that it's really only been in the last 100 years that people exercise as part of their lives willfully. It used to be that exercise was just part of your life. You moved around as part of your daily activity. you're cleaning, you're gardening, you're building something, you're creating something, meant having to orient your body in multiple dimensions, lowering down to the ground, lifting your body up, doing all kinds of movements that sitting at a desk, typing away at a computer, and maybe driving a car certainly are not going to do for you. So what is really fascinating to me, of course, is that there are some exercises that just sort of materialized out of nowhere, right? There are things like, well, there's jogging and swimming and those kinds of things. But in terms of, like floor-based exercise, things like lunges, and maybe skipping in place or squatting, those have kind of, real life parallels to activities in functional life. When we talk about push-ups, there really isn't anything that is, in a regular sort of, like a daily household management or even playing around for fun with your kids that would mandate you're getting into the startup position for a push up and then lowering your body to the floor with a flat body completely and then pushing your body back up off the floor like that. There just isn't an equivalent to it. Push-ups got their start in the military, and they weren't even called push-ups. They were called body dips. And the reason, so I write about it in my book, Darwin on the Treadmill, the reason that push-ups were popular in the military had to do with the lowering of the body down, not the pushing it back up. In fact, they were called body dips. They weren't even called push-ups. And the fascinating part, of course, with military drilling is being able to quickly lower the body and safely lower or push the body back up off of the ground position, which from a combat perspective was something that was equivalently needed in terms of staying low to the ground and, in battle. But in a gym, that got reversed. And so the push up off the floor, or starting in hand plank position and then lowering the body towards the floor and then pushing back up, executing one complete push-up, came much, much later. And obviously one of the main reasons why it is so challenging has solely to do with the fact that you are in plank position when you are executing a single push-up or a series of push-ups. Your body in plank is a tapestry of isometric contractions taking place at a flip of the switch. You have no control over the activity, the stimulation that is taking place automatically when you put your body in the position of straight legs, or even on your knees, technically speaking, with your butt down, creating a straight line from your contact points on the floor with either your feet or your knees up to your shoulders and chest, and then using your hands to support yourself, again with that straight trunk and quad or thigh position, one straight line. That flip of the muscles that line your rib cage, the muscles that wrap your rib cage, the erector spinae and the rectus abdominis, the front and the back muscles, as well as your obliques, all contract because they support your heart and your lungs and the rest of your vital organs. Your trunk engages and has to respond by sending oxygenated, nutrient-rich blood to the muscle tissues that are doing this really important job when you're in this position. So that's why push-ups are aerobic. So when you are getting into the position, first of all, the one thing that you want to do is take a moment or two to limber up your back and to take a few deep breaths. What I would also recommend, I always begin in a hip bridge position, and just lubricate the joints around the hips and make sure that your legs are ready to go. And I also do some jumping jacks. So jumping is one of those exercises that a lot of people also don't really like, but jumping is a really good part of everyday exercise regimens because you're activating the neurotransmitters that terminate in your feet and therefore allowing the body to increase its response rate as you get to something that is truly difficult. So I always do, I do 21 push-ups and 21 jumping jacks and then 21 push-ups every single morning. That was my typical regimen until I got to this week and I realized that this study was really interesting and I wanted to find out if I could do 40 push-ups. And it turns out that I can, but I will say that by the time I get to the 21, which is where I normally end, I'm thinking to myself, wow, do I really have 19 more push-ups to do? And it is really quite challenging for me. And I'm a pretty fit person. So what you want to do is start in small chunks. First of all, you want to know how many that you can do without, before you begin this sort of analysis for yourself, this experiment for yourself, if you're interested in it. And I'll tell you, one of the most important things as you get older is to be able to continue to get older. So if you are at risk for heart disease, for heart condition issues now, whatever you're dealing with now, talk to your doctor, make sure that you have a thumbs up to proceed with a regimen for exercise and then work your way up. There is no harm in trying to do 40 push-ups. If you have your doctor's permission to do exercise, you should definitely give it a try. And the first thing I'll tell you is not to try to do 40 push-ups right off the get-go. What you want to do is a couple of things first. Number one, I already said you can warm up your hips, warm up your cardiovascular system a little bit, and activate the neurotransmitters by doing a couple of jumping jacks, 10, 20 jumping jacks. But you can also prepare your body for push-ups by holding plank for 1 minute. And that is also hard. It takes about a minute to do 40 push-ups, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how quickly you're executing each repetition. And you do want to pay attention to that. The truth of the matter is you don't want to do 40 push-ups in 40 seconds. You shouldn't be able to do them that quickly. It would be dangerous. First of all, it would also create a lot of momentum, which means you're not necessarily doing as much work. But also you really could run the risk, and going back to the danger point of torquing your wrist or doing something funky to your shoulder. So you want to be careful. So you hold a position, the plank position, for 1 minute, and you don't need to be on your hands. People are always concerned about their wrists, and given the limited scope of our upper body work, that is understandable. We don't do a lot with our arms anymore. In the book, in fact, I don't even talk about upper body work. We call all of the upper body exercises PPHC. And I just define them that way because the most important component in terms of upper body movement in modern life, and PPHC stands for push, pull, hold, and carry, it is trunk stability. And I don't just mean your abs. I don't just mean your back. I mean your trunk. So from your shoulders and the bottom of your neck down to your groin, your hips, your butt. So definitely your abs and your back, but your biceps, sure, you're going to feel your biceps when you are carrying a bag of groceries, or if you're holding your child for, several minutes or whatever. But you don't need to work your biceps. You just don't, for the most part. Now, that's not taking away anything from people that would like to have sculpted muscles, and I get that, but that isn't a functional sort of life expectancy let's do what we can to make sure you're alive. And then if you're fit, if you're interested in sculpting, then, traverse that territory once you are able to. So you hold the plank on your elbows. You hold it for 1 minute. Now, you also want to perform, I said before, you can try to write down how many push-ups that you can do until you have to stop. Do them slowly. When you bring yourself up into the position where your hands are on the floor, you're off of your elbows, make sure that you're not shoving or mashing the heel of your hand into the floor, but rather using your fingertips, splay your fingers and use the top part of your palm and your fingertips. And then bend your elbows slowly and lower your body down. Make sure you inhale as that's happening, and then you pause and then push back up as you exhale. That's one push-up. So you know how many you can do on your feet, and then you rest. You rest in child's pose. You also can sit up on to your knees or just, lift your body up off of the floor, shake out your wrists, do a couple of shoulder circles or a swim, if you will, and then try again. But this time, once you have done the number that you can do on your toes, go to your knees, because you probably can do double whatever number you did on your toes on your knees. But here's the other thing. If you're having a hard time doing push-ups on your knees, you can also do push-ups against a wall. And the best thing that I did this week probably was to walk a client, an older client, through push-ups on the wall and having that person understand the mechanics of bending the elbows, bringing an object closer to the body with a straight torso and leg position, and then straightening the elbows and pushing that object away from the body. That was a really fascinating experience. And when you do 40 push-ups against the wall, you will be able to ascertain the amount of time that it takes to do 40 push-ups in a practical situation, so that you know how much of a commitment it will be for you to perform the 40 push-ups once you get into the routine and you're able to do them. A couple of other things that you can do to help develop your body, ready your body for this goal. Make sure that you include some side planks, and make sure that when you are sitting throughout your day, you want to make sure that your shoulders line up with your ears, that you're not curling your back all the time and craning your head forward, so that your cervical spine is starting to deviate from the posture that you need to be able to support when you are performing this move. It's really, really, really important. You want to make sure that your head, your ballast, the ballast of your body, which weighs about 10 pounds, sits properly atop your shoulders, and ears and shoulders lining up in line is one of the best ways to make sure that you do that. That also forces your chest to be open, and when it comes time to doing those push-ups, it's going to allow you to recruit the muscle groups that allow the mechanics to work with you instead of work against you. I'm Coach Kim from In Shape Fitness. I'm going to leave it at that. So remember, you are trying 40 push-ups is a great thing to try. You can try them if you want to try them. You're probably not going to be able to do them. As I said, do a few until you feel like it is not safe to do anymore, and then start working your way up to 40 push-ups. And doing the push-ups on the wall, making sure that you do a plank to prepare your torso for the stability. And then even before that, preparing your body through hip bridges, jumping jacks, and deep breaths, good posture are all components to really simplified way of keeping yourself out of the danger zone when it comes to cardiovascular fitness. Have a wonderful day. I will see you again soon.